Recording. Okay. And my audio is clear, right? Just I should have checked this before, but I'm just asking.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So today, what I thought is we'll look at a different service. I think like last few days, it's like more on networking is what we have seen. I thought like still there are like few more concepts which are left in networking side, and which we'll cover eventually because to demonstrate that I thought we'll also use few other services. Okay, today we are going to talk about storage accounts. Okay, so this is another service which Azure is providing. Okay, and this is mainly for storing. Again, the main purpose is to just store all your data, though you have like you would have seen disks and all which we get with VM, but this has its own purpose, right? Like in you cannot just have a VM running to put your documents or anything else, right? So that's where like storage account comes into picture. That is what we are going to see again. Okay, is anyone talking? I heard some noise. Okay, I guess no. I will continue. So, like storage account again has different types or like different yeah, different types of storage accounts are there. I mean, which is nothing but like different tiers and each have its own use case. Okay. So that is just a short introduction. Okay. But we'll see it in action, like how we usually do it. So what we will do is you can just go here and search for storage accounts, or here also if you go to all services, you can go to storage, and here you should see like for storage accounts. Okay, this is what we are going to see now. Okay, let's try creating one storage account and we'll see how it looks like. Okay, let's go and create like any other service. You have to fill certain details, and as you all know, subscription and the resource group is something which is mandatory for any resource or most of the resource. There are like some resource which doesn't need this, which we'll see, but for this, yeah, you need a subscription and a resource group. I'll just say demo storage account RG. Okay, I'll just name it like this, or we'll just say storage RG. Okay. Mm, then your storage account name, right? So this has to be unique. There are like certain things which is allowed and which is not allowed when you name. Okay. Then because this storage account service is something which is they call it as a public service. Okay. Which means the name whatever you're going to give here should be unique across all Azure. When I say all Azure, there could be n number of customers who are using Azure, right? If they have chosen some name, you cannot reuse that same name, though you have a separate isolation for your account, etc. and all, but you cannot use the same storage account name. But you will get to know the reason when you see how these things are used. But for now, just remember your name should be unique, and this is something they call it as a public service, which again you will get to know when we see things in action. So what I will do is I'll just say Azure demo, and I'll pick 06 Feb 2025. Okay, I hope no one has taken this name, but if you see it is like searching, and you'll see a tick mark anyways. Like if I go here, let's see if it is showing, it is still searching. Okay, but if I add any other special characters, okay, you cannot have this hyphen or underscore and all in your storage account name, and dots are also not allowed. There is no special characters and all, you cannot have it. Okay, and you cannot also have uppercase, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, you see, right? If I have uppercase, it will not allow. And your storage account name can be of like up to 24 or 25 characters only. Okay, yeah, up to 24. I cannot just have a single letter also. It should be like minimum 3 and max as 24. For some reason, this is still resolving. What I'll do, I'll quickly refresh this page and we'll start it from the beginning. Okay, I'll just say storage RG and Azure demo. I'll say 06. If you see, right, Azure demo, if I say it's like it's already taken. Okay, this is like a common name, right, which we already know. Let's use something like this. Okay, this is valid. Now, if you see that search is done, and let's deploy it in the default location. So here, again, this is not a mandatory field, but for now, I'll just skip it. Okay, we'll come to this in the later part. Performance, okay, like any storage device. If you remember, like when we discussed about managed disks, which were attached to VMs, there were different types of storage, like standard SSD, premium SSD, and all. Similarly, for Azure storage account also, you have different storage tiers which they give, depending on like you will get different performance and features also varies. Okay, for example, if I go with premium, right, you will be able to choose what type of account this is going to be. Though with standard it is a general purpose account, but premium you get very less latency. That is one main advantage. Okay, we'll go with standard for our demo, that's fine. Then comes the redundancy part. Okay, with standard, you get only LRS and GRS. Okay, let's see what this redundancy is, right? Maybe I'll again go to this documentation itself. It will be easy to explain. Whereas if I select premium, right, you get some more options. Okay, maybe if I, okay, I should have done, wait, let's use Central India, this demo. I'll tell you why. Let this finish and we'll go with standard. Okay, yeah, sorry, my bad. With standard also you will get. The reason why you didn't get with other regions, right? Okay, this is something which I'll tell you. Okay, probably this is little bit out of the context. Okay, but I'll tell you something. If at all, if we create a, I'm just taking virtual machine as an example. Let's say create. If you would have noticed, okay, let's okay, this is showing like this. Maybe I'll use this one only. Okay, let's use this. If you see, there is two sections. One is recommended set of regions, and the other one is like others. Under others only, probably if I search for India, right, you see recommended region is Central India, but under others you have South and West India. The physical data center, right, for Central India has multiple zones. Okay, like whatever regions you see under recommended, they have like at least 3 zones. Okay, that's why you see them under recommended. For example, I'll take US, East US, right? So you will see like there are different zones. Again, there is an availability zone concept which will come to that later, because I know we covered VM, but these are the topics which are not yet we didn't touch. But what I wanted to show is like if you pick any region under recommended regions, right, you will have more than one zone. Okay, more zone is nothing but you can think of like they have more than one data center. Okay, you can zone one is like you can think of one data center, and again zone two is like it's a separate building, or it is like separate buildings actually. You can think something like that. Okay, but if I choose from others, right, you will not see this zone concept for all the region. Okay. For example, here you have, but if you take India region, all right, if I pick South India, you will not see any infrastructure redundancy here. Okay, which means you don't have a separate zone for South India region. Okay, but this is just one part. Again, there are like certain services which are available in recommended, which are not available in recommended region, but which are available in other regions. Okay. Whenever you are designing any solution, you have to check from both the aspects. Like you have to see from the price, like whether the given region is having that service or not. All those things has to be considered. Okay, this is something which you have to watch out if you are like designing anything and all. These things has to be considered. Now, moving on, okay, let's use Central India for the storage account and we'll go with standard. If you see, there are like multiple redundancy option, okay. In general, storage account itself is a highly available solution, but still, there are different options which Azure is giving, which you can leverage when you configure, because each has its own use case, right? So what I will do is like, let's go here, okay. There are like different terms. Like if I go here, one is locally redundant storage. Okay, this is the cheapest. If I go to this documentation, this is how it's going to be. Like if you choose LRS within the same data center, Azure is going to maintain three different copies. Okay, so why I don't have any other documentation is like always cloud things will get changed. So it is always recommended to go with the cloud provider documentation, in this case, Microsoft. So I thought this would be the best reference point. Okay. So if you see here, like they're telling you will have a three different copies if you choose LRS, but the problem is it will be in a single data center. And if your whole data center goes, that is an outage for you. If that is something which your application cannot sustain, or if that is something you don't want, then you go to the next option, which is geo redundant storage. Okay, I think in this only if you go, even before geo, okay, yeah, there is a zone redundancy, right? So I told like there are regions where you have multiple zones, right? Which means this is a separate data center. Your availability zone 2 is a separate data center and zone 3 is a separate data center. So you'll have three different copies which is split across multiple availability zone. Okay, then comes like what happens if your whole region is down, right? Then comes the other part, which is geo redundant storage. In this case, what happens? Still, you will have three copies of your data in your primary region. Again, there will be a replication which Azure is going to do, and this will replicate your data to the secondary region. Okay, this is where like geo redundant storage comes. Then within geo redundant, you have geo zone redundant. Okay, which means one will be like across a zone within this, right? We have just within a single data center. You will be your primary region will split across multiple zones, and then they said send it to secondary replica. Okay, the whole idea is like uh, you get more high availability. The more high availability you are looking for, the more cost will be incurred. Okay, so that is on the redundancy part. For our demo, I'm just going to use LRS. That's completely fine. And let's look at the next options. From the security standpoint, again, like there are multiple options which we'll see later. Okay. For now, I'm not going to talk about that. So, how many of you are have heard um, Azure Data Lake, data lake storage, ADLS? Eh, Have anyone heard about data lakes and all?
I mean, data lake is like it will take the log backup, the like log shipping.
Not exactly. Okay.
To store vast
Uh,
data, we use it.
correct. Yeah, right. So that is one use case. Usually it is used for like storing huge data. Usually this is used in big data and where you want to process things and all, right? So in Azure, why I asked is like if you enable this, right, this checkbox, this is going to convert your normal storage account into data lake storage. Okay, they call it as ADLS, Azure Data Lake Storage. But for now we don't need this. Okay, I'll just remove that checkbox. There are again different types of access tier. Okay, and each have its like usually like if it is hot, right, this, as you see the short description, this is used for frequently accessed data. Okay, and then there is cool tier, which is like less frequently, and cold is very less frequently compared to cool. Okay, and each has its own pricing, especially for backups and all, right? If you want to move to lower tiers for longer retention, they basically go with cold tier and all, so that you don't have a higher cost. Okay, probably what I'll do is Azure storage account. Let's search for access tiers, right? We'll quickly see. So you see, you can have basically you can move data between different tiers. For example, if you see hot tier is something like where you access data quite frequently. For normal usage and all, you go with hot tier. Cold tier is nothing but like the data should be stored minimum for 30 days. That's the threshold. And this is for cool. Cold is like 90. Okay, the minimum is 90. So what happens if you breach this, right? You will just have additional charges involved. Let's see if I have it here. Maybe we'll see that later. But like each tier has their own limits. Okay, so that is when you hit this. Okay, probably let's check this. Not this one. Maybe there is a different documentation which I'll show you. But just remember, like there are different tiers. Depending on your use case, you have to choose it. So in this case, we'll go with hot for our case, and let's go with next. So I told you like by default, the public network access is enabled. Again, we will see in the upcoming session like how you can securely have this enabled. For now, I'll leave it as public enabled as true, which means public. It is enabled for public access for now. And then public network. So like I'm okay to allow this to um, give access from all the networks. Again, this is also not recommended, but for our demo, we'll see. We'll talk about this private endpoint again later. This is something which is related to the networking concept, which I told. This is something we haven't covered, but we'll finish the storage part, then we'll come to this part. Okay. Then like data protection. Again, like there are different options they give. Okay. In case if your um, data is deleted, like there are again different service which within storage account you have. For now, you just skip it. Once we see the service, we'll come to this window again. Okay. And if you want versioning for your data, okay, you can enable versioning. I'm not going to do it for now. And rest all, I'll leave it default. Okay. So those are the important things, but other things for now we don't need it because we are at the initial phase, right? Let's understand like how this service looks. Okay, and if you remember, like when we dealt with VMs and all, you have to define a network, and it's going to create a whole bunch of other resources when we deploy. But with storage account, nothing. You just need a resource group and a subscription ID for you to deploy a storage account. And this won't take much time. This should happen in few seconds. And what I will do as well that is happening, we'll just save some images. Okay, probably I'll just save this, which we used in the previous session, so that we can upload this data once this is ready. Okay, let me put it in desktop only. Do I have any other? Okay, let me just save this also. I'll just say _1. Okay. Okay, this is deployed. Okay. Now, I told you storage account itself, it's going to give you different types of data storage options. Okay. It has containers, file shares, queues, tables. Okay. So we're going to focus mainly on containers first. Okay. Um, So this is like containers is, you can think of like you put a folder and within that you can put all your data, whatever you want. Okay. For example, we are just going to put a image which I just saved, and this container name need not be unique. Okay, because like our this is within your storage account, right? So I can just say demo container, and you're not able to change this now. We'll come to this part in a while. I'll just say create. Okay, this is just like a folder. Again, I can have another folder saying like private something like that. We can create all these are like just the folder. Okay, this has nothing. There is no data. So what you can do, if I go inside this container, I can create a directory within that container. Okay. So it's like first level is storage account. Okay. Within storage account, you can have more than different containers. Within container, if you want to have a separate set of folders, you can just add. This is a virtual directory. Okay. You just think this is. So when I say virtual directory, probably once we see it, right, you will get no. Probably I'll show you like how it looks like. For now, what I'm going to do, I'll say upload, and let's browse for files. I've saved a couple of pictures in our desktop. I'll use that. So this one, if you see, I'm just putting it inside the demo container. What I'm going to do is like, let's do another upload. Okay. This time we'll pick the other file and I'll say, okay, here I can say if I want to upload this into any other folder. Okay. I'll just say test folder. This is the virtual folder. Maybe when I show you the URL, right? So basically, your storage account is going to give you an endpoint using which you can access this data. Okay. So let's say upload. Now, if you see, this is the virtual folder. Okay. When they say virtual folder, your data is still sitting inside the container, but it is just the name. Okay. Probably what I'll do. Let's click on this. Right. We'll see this data once. Okay. Probably what I will do. I'll go to the container. So this is the contain within the storage account. Now I'm inside the container. Okay, this is the image which we have uploaded. Let's click on this, and there are like whole bunch of different details you see here, right? For us to access the image, this is the URL. Okay, this is our blob URL they call it, and let me copy it. Okay, I'll put it in a notepad. And similarly, what I will do, let's also go here, and from here also you can copy the URL. Okay, let me just show you. Now, if you see, they told it's a virtual folder, right? Just it will have a pointer here. Okay, still your data is within this container, so you will just have a virtual folder as a pointer to uh, I mean, when you upload, it's just going to have this additional pointer. If you look at the naming convention, this is going to be our storage account name, and this is going to be the type of storage. It's a blob container which we are using, and demo is the container name, and this is the file name. Okay, so since this is a public endpoint, right? Like this name has to be common. Okay, because anyone across Azure, like if you are trying to use the same name, Azure is not going to allow because this is a common service. Okay, that's why like you need a unique name. Now, if I go to the portal, let's say we have this data, right? This is an image. So what I can do if I go to edit, like you see the image what we uploaded, right? So this is from the portal. Okay, and if you remember when we created this storage account, there were a couple of options where we selected like public access. I want to enable it to everyone, right? So what we will do, this is the URL. Okay, let's try accessing it and see if we are able to do it. Okay. Okay. So when we try to access, it says public access is not permitted to the storage account. Okay. So what happens is whatever we created, that is something we just stored okay, you can enable it, but there are like other levels of access which would be disabled by default. Okay, that's why when I try to access this URL, you will not get it. Okay, so what we can do is, if I go to the storage account settings, okay, there is a separate configuration which you have to enable. Okay, allow blob anonymous access. Okay, if you see, we haven't logged in with any ID or nothing. We just know there is an URL, and I'm just trying to access it. Okay, so Azure by default has blocked that access in this case. What I'll do, let's go and enable. Okay, and let's save. Done. So now we have done this changes. Let's go and refresh this. Now if you see, still it is not allowing. Okay, so what happens is, let's go into our container. Okay, and let's go into this folder. There are like different access levels, I told, right? Whatever you have done is for the storage account. Okay, so there is a separate access level for your container. Again, this time, again, there are like three different types. So one is private, no anonymous access. Then comes the blob, which means like this will give read-only access to your blob. Okay, when they say blob here, it is the files which you have uploaded. Okay, this is what it is referred as blob. So what we'll do is, we'll go with this blob. Okay, um, what it says, because disabled for the storage account. Okay, wait. We did enable. Let's refresh this page so that the change, sometimes the portal thinks, okay, we haven't done that change. So let's see if we are able to set the change now. Okay, now it's allowing. Last time we didn't get that okay button. Now what we will do, let's copy this URL. Again, let's try to access it. It's working. If I give this URL right in the chat, it's going to work for you all as well. If anyone wants to try, you can. If you hit this link, it will work. Okay, it's not just because I have already logged into the Azure portal, it's working for me. This is like now publicly available. Okay, anyone, if you want to try, you can give it a try and say if it is working or not. I can access. Awesome. Yeah, so it should work for everyone again. Now let's do the same for the other one as well. Okay, I'll pick this one and we'll say copy URL. Let's try to access. This is also working, right? So this is for the each blob. Okay. Now what I can do is, if I go to the demo, this thing, right? The container. So let's go to the properties. There is a URL for our container as well. Okay. Now let's see if we can access this container. You see, we are not able to query this. It says like the specified resource does not exist. Okay. Though it is enabled, we have given only for the blob. Okay. Not for the whole container. Now what we will do is, let's go and change the access tier again. I'll say change. This time, let's give for container. Okay. This is done. Let's refresh this. Still, it will not work. Okay, because like it will not be able to render that data. Okay, that's why it's not working. But there are other ways to access this data. Okay, which we will see now. So what we will do is, there is a tool. Okay, whatever we have seen till now is from the portal. Okay, there is a separate tool called Storage Explorer, Azure Storage Explorer. Okay, so let's look at the tool. Okay, this is again like free, and mostly like you will be, I mean, developers and all, if they are dealing with Azure Storage Container and all, like they can install this tool and they can explore like what is available in their storage bucket, etc. and all. Okay, let's see this. Okay, let me download the tool. But yeah, meanwhile, any questions while we do this?
Naveen,
You, yeah.
uh, if you can just want to restrict this particular the blob storage with a specific account, is there is any way out to do that?
You want to restrict this blob for a specific account.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You cannot do it for, I mean, so if that account is within the Azure, right? Yes, you can do it. So in Azure, we have this Entra ID, right? So
Right, right, right,
where
right.
all the users will be there. There you can definitely control. For example, if you go to IAM, right? Though I haven't talked about Entra ID, that's why I didn't come to this place. But what you can do is like you can do add role assignment, and you can add the permission, what level of permission you want, and then grant the permission for that respective users. You can say select members, and you can grant access like this.
Okay,
Okay,
thanks.
that is possible. Since I'm showing with the ID which has all access, we are not seeing any problem. But this is something which we'll discuss more when we talk about Entra ID. But for now, yes, you can do it, and IAM is the place where you can come and do that. Any other questions? I will take it as no, and let's continue. I'll say this is fine. This is just a tool we are installing. Okay, and it has to install .NET 8 for this tool to work. That's fine. This won't take much time, hopefully. It's giving some prompt. Let's click on OK, and next, finish. Once this tool is installed, I'll show you like what other options we have to access. Okay, let's launch this tool. Okay, so this is how the interface is going to look like. Okay, so this is a separate tool which is running on my laptop now, and this is purely for communicating or dealing things with your storage account. Okay, so what I wanted to do is there are like again multiple ways to connect. Okay, we don't want to sign in and then take access because we know if I do a sign in with my account, it's going to work, right? So what I'll do is I'll just say connect to storage account. Okay. And here, if you see, there are like different ways and different services which you get access. Okay. Whatever we have seen till now, it is for storage account or service, block container or directory. We haven't seen anything on ADLS Gen 2, file share queue, tables, nothing. Okay. And subscription is nothing but like it will take you to the sign in page and do it, which we don't want. Okay, let's look at this option first, right? What I will do, so let's go here. Here, if you see, there are like multiple ways of doing this connection. Okay, it says like you can give a connection string, key or SAS, or you can give something called shared access signature, or you can give the account name and key. Okay, so we'll see what these options are. If you see, like I have chosen storage account or service. Okay, which means let's go here. Let's go to our storage account. Okay, if I have to go again, this is our storage account. Okay, if I scroll down under security, you have something called access keys. Okay, basically this is like you can think of your storage account name as a username and password. Okay, this keys is nothing but a password. That is what this option is. Okay, under storage account, we are in access keys under security plus networking. What I'll do, I'll copy the storage account name. Let's go next. Display name, I can just say anything. Okay, dev storage account, and I'll give the storage account name which we copied from the portal. Okay, and if I click on show, it's going to give this password. Okay, what I can do, I'll put this key here. This is like a huge text, right? So you see different domains, right? So basically, whatever we are using, right? This is like azureportal.com. Okay, for China region, they have a different domain basically. For US government, there is a different domain. But for our case, it's going to be Azure, which is like core.windows.net. Let's click on next and connect. Now, if you see, we are able to see the blob container which we created from the portal, right? So what I can do is, so let me just create some, I'll just say random file, I'll just save it in the desktop. So from here also, you can actually upload files, okay? What I will do is, let's go and go to desktop. I can just say upload. So this is also going to upload the file, and yeah, that's it. So now it is working. If I go to the portal also, you should be seeing the files here as well. You see, right? The text file, whatever we created, now we are able to see it here. So this is the way how you can access it using the access keys. Okay. So what problem you see with this approach? Do you see any problem with this approach? Anyone wants to guess? There is no right answer, so you can just tell whatever if you think. Like, do you see any problem with this approach? Okay, so I'll tell you. Okay, so if let's say if this access key, okay, goes to someone who shouldn't have it, okay, then that is one problem, right? The other problem is, if you remember, when I got the access key, nowhere I mentioned what level of permission I give to this user account or when we do this type of access, right? So which means if you go with this approach, right, using the access keys, you cannot restrict or define a specific sort of access. Okay, that is one big problem. And if this key, let's say if it goes to someone who's unauthorized to access this bucket, what you can do is you can basically rotate this key, okay, which means the previous key, whatever is available, that will be invalid, okay, and the new key will come into picture. If you see, right, now it's gone. It says like authorization header is formed in correctly using this signature, and now I lost the access, okay. So that is where like you can rotate the key, okay. So as soon as I did, it's going to block the access, okay. Now what I have to do is I have to just again like detach this connection, and we have to reconnect with the correct keys. Okay, probably let me close this, and if I use this key again, let's do it. I'll say connect storage account, it's with access key, and I'll just say demo. We'll copy the key and storage account name. Let's hit on connect, and we are back. Okay, so that is how, like, if there is an key which is exposed, which you feel it shouldn't have been done, you can do this rotate key. Okay, and yeah, you also have a backup key which you can use, which is key 2. Again, this is also a separate key which is available. Okay, now this is one way of doing it. Let's look at the other option, right? Again, I'll do a detach. Okay, now uh, let's look at some options which, whatever we did, it is for the storage account layer. Okay, within storage account, we have different containers, right? Let's look at that option. Maybe, okay, sorry. Before even going to that, right, let's look at the options at storage account layer so that we'll finish that one part at least. I will go here again and let's select storage account. The other option, what you see is here is SAS token. Basically, they call it as shared access signature. Okay, we'll see how we can get there. Again, just below access key under security plus networking, I have this option. And if you look at this, right, this has a lot of other options. Okay, for example, I can tell like what level of access I'm going to give. Okay, for example, I'll just say I want to give access only to the blob service. Okay, and allowed resource type service container objects. So let's select these two alone. And let's say I want to give only read only access. Okay, and probably list is also okay. And I'll remove all other access. Then you also have an expiry date which you can set. Let's say you are giving access to a different team or an external vendor, you can just restrict, okay, your access will be expired after so and so time. Probably what we will do is we'll set this to some time so that we can see it live, like how your access can get expired. Let's pick this timestamp. I'll copy this. Probably it's 47, right? I'll just say up to 50. This access will be valid. And you can also like restrict based on the IP address as well. I'll just put it 51. Okay. And if you see here, this shared access signature is also mapped to the key which you saw here. Okay. So that's why you see like string key, it will be key 1 or key 2. We have chosen key 1. What I'm going to do is you get SAS token blob service SAS URL. Let's pick this. Okay. And let's go to the next. I'll say this one. This cannot be used to. What is this? Did I pick something wrong? Okay. Wait. I chose storage account, shared access signature. Let's see. Okay, wait. Is it something to do this? Okay, there is something wrong which I'm doing. Wait. Let's try with this connection string if it is working. Inadequate resource type access. Okay. Okay. We didn't allow the service type which should have been in place. Let's copy, and I should have read the error message clearly. Let's go here. Okay, this is sorted. Connect. Now let's go here and we'll see what happens if I try to delete this, right? If you see, it says insufficient credentials. We don't have permission to delete. Okay, so that is what this indicates. And if you see, there is also a notification saying the SAS token which we have used is going to expire soon, which is within a minute. It's going to expire. But what I wanted to show you is this has more level of granularity. Okay, You can control what access is given, for how long the access is going to be valid. If you want to restrict for a given IP address from where this has to be used, all those things you have control. Okay, that is the advantage you get with the shared access signature. I just want to show you like what happens this if the time period exceeds, right? So it should be done in few more seconds. And we know delete is not going to work, which we have already seen. Let's wait for a few more seconds and then I think our access should go away. You see, it's gone. No data available. Our token is expired. Okay. So that is on the shared access signature for the storage container. I mean, storage account. If you go into the container, right, here you have different set of access again. Okay. Now what we will do is I will detach this connection, whatever we have taken. Let's again go back to the screen. Whatever we have seen till now, it is for the storage account. Similarly, let's say you every time you know you don't have to give at storage account layer, right? So I want to give specific blob container alone, right? During that time, you'll go with this option. And here also you have a SAS URL, which we'll see. You have shared access token, right? Let's go here. And here also, if you see, you have a mapping to the key, and you can define what type of permissions are going to be given. I'll just say again, read and list. And this time I'll go with the defaults. Okay. Let's generate this SAS URL and let's go next and next connect. So with this, you give even more granular access, okay? Which means like the whoever is using it, they only will have access to the specific files within that container, not beyond that. They don't know even like which storage account this belongs, etc. and all. So whatever we have, I've shown you, right? This is from the UI, okay? But in real time, people use this in a programmatical way. Like from, let's say, I can integrate this access method with Python or PowerShell, like that and all. We can use probably in the tomorrow's, not tomorrow, the next session on Monday. I'll show you some code examples how you can integrate this with the programmatical way. That's how people use it in real time. This storage explorer will purely used for troubleshooting or if they want to check something. Okay. But when it comes to automation side and all, like it will be used in a programmatical way. But um, when I talked about the access key part, okay, I told you there is a problem. What happens if this goes to a wrong person, right, who shouldn't have these keys? The same thing can happen with this URL as well, right? Let's say I have given elevated permission like create, add, or delete. And let's say this token SAS URL has gone to someone who shouldn't be using it. Okay. You cannot really do anything with this default settings. Okay. That is where you have something else. Okay. Probably if I go to this access policy, you see there is something called store access policy. Okay. Now, with the previous setup, let's say if this goes to someone else, again you have IP address restriction also. Let's assume you haven't given it, but the key got to some wrong people, right? And let's say that had elevated access. With the current approach, you cannot do much in this case. Like you cannot rotate also in this scenario. So to avoid that, okay, there is something called stored access policy. Okay, we'll see it in action because if I show you, you'll get to know like what exactly this does. Basically, what we'll do is we'll set a policy where you will define what level of access is going to be given. Then, when you create a shared access token, you'll map that policy. Okay, what I will do is let's say demo policy. I'll just name it like that. And I'll just go with this same permission, or this time let's select delete also. Okay. This also has an expiry date which you can set. Probably I'll just go with the defaults and click on OK, which means now this policy, I have a policy which is in effect from this time to this time. And if I edit, like here, you will see like the permissions RDL. Okay, that's what you see here as the permissions. Now, what I can do is I can go to the shared access. Okay, let me save it. Shared access token, and let's create a new key again. And this time, I'm going to pick the policy. You see, as soon as I pick the policy, rest all of the options are grayed out. Okay, let's generate the token. And what I will do is, let's detach this, whatever we connected previously, and let's say refresh. Okay, now I'll go here. Let's go to the blob container, and I'll use the same SAS URL, and let's hit on connect. Now let's say this landed to some wrong person. Okay, so what can happen is like they can edit or do anything, right? Let's say they are modifying. Since we gave delete permission also, like they can do anything, right? Wait, let me close this just to show you. I will be able to delete with this access. Okay, I'll say delete. This is going to delete. Now, um, let's say you know something bad happened, right? What you can do is I'll go to the access policy. As soon as, let's say I want to revert things, right? I can go here, edit, remove all these access basically. I'll click on OK. Now if you see, it should restrict the access zone. This is applied, right? Let's see if we are able to get this data. This got downloaded. Maybe it's not getting refreshed, or let's do refresh. No, I'm sure this should break as soon as I stop that. This is still transferring. Okay, wait, I didn't save it. Okay, that's the problem. I should have done the save. Let's go back here. I think it's gone. Let's try to open this now. Is it still working? Okay, you see the error, right? It started throwing error. It's saying like fail to authenticate the request. Make sure the authorization header is formed correctly. So yeah, that's how like this policy comes into picture handy. Okay, the stored access policy. Similarly, like for sensitive data and all, right? Let's say if you don't want someone to change, like you can also add another policy saying like immutable blob storage. Okay, which means like you can set based on time retention. Let's say there are like some audit logs which are getting written, right? And let's say no one wants the data to be edited, right? You can set policy time based and set a retention period. Let's say I want to store like 6 months data or 30 days of data and all, right? You can set it, and you can just say like allow protected rights, and you can just say if you want to append only or block and append like that, you can just say, and this will add another layer. And as soon as I set this, I will not be able to delete the data also, because it is just going to wait, did I save? Yeah. So this is just going to like only upload data, which means you can read, but you cannot do any changes to the data. Okay. So let's try deleting it. You see, it failed to delete. Okay, because it is in a immutable due to policy. So for auditing things and all, like if you're dealing with any financial data where you want to audit things and all, they'll have this sort of policies in place, so that this will not allow people to modify data. This is going to give you like additional protection to your data and the blob container. Okay, so I think we'll stop here. Okay, maybe I'll stop the recording and